Hello, 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 and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. All right, if you are like Chris and you do not want to hear me tell you to buy the book, just fast forward 30 seconds. If you've not gotten the book yet, go buy the book. You can go to farmingwithoutthebank.com and grab it. Here's the thing, it's only $20. If you go to Amazon, I think it's like $300. Don't be mad at me for that. I am not selling that book. But it's worth 300 bucks, but you can get it for 20 off of the website, farmingwithoutthebank.com, and you can grab a bundle, both of mine and Nelson's. So go do that. Okay. I had this conversation with somebody online, and I saw that they were asking about if they should 1035 their policy. So here is the thing. You have an option. Let me tell you what 1035 means. If you already have a permanent life insurance policy, meaning whole life, universal life, flexible premium paying life, variable indexed ULs, those all have cash value. You can do what is called a 1035. And what that is you just move cash value from one policy to another. Now, people do this a lot there's many reasons people do it. But if you have, typically you see it done, if it is a universal life policy that is not really good and people are going to most likely outlive it. You see this done if it is an indexed UL or a VUL. Typically, you only see this done if it is not in a good policy. Now, the question that was being asked was, I have a 10-year-old policy from a mutual company. She named the company, but I am not going to rename the company. And I would like to 1035 it because that policy is not set up correctly for infinite banking. Here is the thing. I don't like this company. There are a couple of mutual companies out there. I just do not like them. Their agents are slimy. And the company itself is good. It's managed well. Their vital signs reports are fantastic. But the agents are taught to be the slimiest salespeople. They are nasty mean. I don't like them. And this is one of those companies. And yet, I reached out to her and said, why would you 1035 a policy that is 10 years old? Well, because I don't have cash value growth. Now let's talk about this. If we're going to 1035 a policy, that cash value is going to get moved and we are going to lose the other policy. It cancels the existing policy when you 1035. That means we've lost death benefit that we bought 10 years ago when we were younger and possibly healthier. If we move it, we do not gain as much death benefit as what we gave up. We lost death benefit. So I don't know the numbers, but let's just use as an example that maybe we have a $500,000 death benefit. But when we 1035 it, that money, that 1035 money goes to reduced paid up additions. Those buy death benefit. So let's say that only buys $80,000 or let's just use round numbers, $100,000 of death benefit. Depending on how much cash value she's 1035ing and her age, it might not even buy that. We are giving up $400,000 of death benefit? Is that justifiable? Does that make sense? In addition, that money, yes, we can get it in the policy in a lump sum for 1035ing. But what if we took an in-force illustration with the current company and looked at what the compounding and the interest is going to be on that policy versus if we put it in a new policy, what is that going to earn? Not with that, just by putting it in one time. not the lifetime of adding extra premium. We have to try to compare apples to apples as close as we can. So many people want to believe that the way we structure a policy, oh, it needs to be a 60-40, a 75-25, a 10-90. The splits of the policy, they think that that is infinite banking. If we read Nelson's books, we see that he didn't have all these fancy splits. He put money to PUA how he could. Yes, and some agents will be out there arguing, well, Mary Jo, things have advanced since then. Yes, they have. Absolutely. But we have to also look at and justify, is that a good option to 1035? Is it a good option to give up the death benefit? What if this person passes away in the next 5 years and we just lost $400,000 of death benefit? If the individual, and I have had individuals that have 1035 policies that I have recommended and said, no, that is a good mutual company. I do not think that you should 1035 that. If anything, maybe you should do a reduced paid up and just stop paying that policy. Okay? Reduced paid up means we don't have to pay anymore, but the policy stays. Reduces death benefit. But maybe that death benefit would actually be more than what we do as a 1035 to move that money over. What is it like? We have to, if you want to do it as a client, that is 100% up to you. But myself as the agent, it is my job to show you the numbers and to talk to you about what is infinite banking. If we have an old traditional whole life policy, all the money goes to death benefit on that policy, but long term, that policy is going to be equally as good and is going to have equally as much cash value. Why would we start over with all the capitalization of that policy? In Nelson's book, he talks about that. The first few years of a policy, you have to capitalize. Every single new policy has to be capitalized. Well, do we want to do that over and over and over and over? If we've already done it, and it's going to take about 5 to 7 years to capitalize a traditional whole life policy, why would we stop funding it right then? Right when it actually starts to take off and do us some good. Why would we stop putting money into it just to start another policy? Right? This is like saying, and this is what I use for my farmers. This is like saying, you know what? That's a really good cow. That cow throws some really nice calves. But I'm going to get rid of her and I'm just going to buy a new one. Because somebody said this new one is going to even be better. Why wouldn't you just keep her and still buy the new one and have the best of both worlds? Makes sense to me. Or let's say that you have real estate and you have the perfect Airbnb. It is making you a ton of money, but somebody said that one next door can actually be better. So you sell this one to go buy that one. Again, why wouldn't you just have both? Okay, so we have to look at if there's income to buy another one and all those sort of things. Now, here's the thing. I have been in this business long enough to see slimy agents. And I could tell you story upon story upon story. But when I see agents that tell a client that they should 1035 a good whole life policy, that to me means we're just trying to make commission. Because I've never looked at the numbers to justify saying, oh, you know what, that's a good whole life policy, let's 1035 that. I have looked at a lot of universal life, variable life, index life that specifically shows, you know what, this is not going to be good. This is going to collapse before you die. We are already running out of money. Then that may justify a 1035. But again, I'm not going to tell a client to do that. You're going to lay out the facts and you're going to show them what they need to look at to make that decision themselves. Here's an example. I have a client. They came to me years ago. Oh, dad has a universal life policy. I'm like, well, it's not good. Like, it clearly was not good. I'm like, you guys need to watch this policy. We cannot do a new policy on dad. You please watch this policy to make sure that he is not going to outlive it. Ask for an in-force illustration every single year to see how it is performing compared to what they projected last year. Okay, and keep those and compare those. That client decided that they were not going to cancel that policy. And dad passed away earlier than expected, and he did not outlive the policy. Thank goodness they did not cancel it and that they were watching it. But a slimy agent would have come in and said, oh, let's just cancel that policy and you use that cash to go buy a new policy on yourself. No, because if we would have canceled that policy, we would have given up the death benefit. We can watch policies to make sure that they're not going to destroy our cash. But if we have good whole life policies, I have also had some people that have, I have had some people that have had good whole life policies and they cancel them because the agent has ticked them off or they are upset with the company. Well, that's the client's decision. I have also had some people cancel them because maybe they bought the policy and 6 months later they read my book. Or a year or two later they read my book and they're like, well, I don't have a lot to lose and I have, 50 years to pay premium on this thing. I'm just going to cut my losses and start over. Okay, we have 50 years, but we're not 10 years into it and possibly 45, 50 years old, that we don't have 50 years to regain what we're going to lose after 10 years. So I thought this was going to be a super short podcast because it's really just about 1035ing, and 1035ing is just pretty easy. But there's not always a reason to do it. Well, and you know what? I should have said this in the beginning. So if you're still in here hanging in with me, thank you. Here's what a 1035 does, is it gets the money from the old policy into the new policy without it hitting the MEC and becoming taxable. So it allows us to get more money moved over to a new policy and avoid the taxation piece. Okay, there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's the general consensus. That is why people want to 1035. Versus if you just cancel the policy, get the check, and then you pay premium out of your checkbook, then it is going to go in as a MEC, and it could MEC and tax and make the policy taxable. So paying premium counts as taxation, right? It could make the policy taxable. Putting 1035 money in is above and beyond. You've already gone through all that. They say, fine, we'll just move it over. It's very similar to a 1031 exchange in real estate. So that is why a lot of people want to do it that way to get that in. But should we be doing it was the question that she was asking, and what the difference was. So I apologize answering that at the end of the podcast instead of the beginning of the podcast. But if you have an agent that is just willy-nilly 1035ing policies, that's not good. There is an agent that I know who he is very good at churning policies, which means, oh, I don't like this company anymore, so let's 1035 and rewrite all those policies with a new company. It is not illegal, but it is definitely unethical. And so why is it unethical? Because we're losing cheaper death benefit to buy more expensive and less death benefit. That is called churning. That is not cool. And this particular individual tried to do that with somebody that I know, and they ran the numbers and said, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you do that? Well, you would do it because you want to make commission. Because if you write a new policy, you get more commission. And all those policies aren't very good, right? So there are reasons that we can do 1035s, and there are reasons we shouldn't do 1035s, and there are reasons a 1035 should be alarming to you as a client. I hope that helped. If I confuse the matter even worse, please let me know, and I will try to straighten it out. Email me, maryjo@withoutthebank.com. If you have not gotten the book, go get the book. If you are listening on the Without the Bank podcast, go to withoutthebank.com, grab your books there, whatever, does not matter. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Have a good one.